Excuse me.
Ja.
Yeah.
Is it okay if the coffee cup is in the thing?
I think
would you prefer it not?
I think it's better if you I think what I prefer is that you don't drink it while we're talking. In between, you can.
Okay.
When you ask a question.
But I don't mind being in the frame.
Yeah, it's all right in the frame.
Okay.
And so you want to count to 5 and then...
Yeah, I want to check focus for a minute.
So I want to tell you that it's a conversation just between you and I, not anyone else. And that if you can repeat the premise of the question, like, who is Edgar Oliver? And you'd say, I am, I think.
Do you want to get
I don't think, is it the door?
Yeah. Are we expecting someone?
No.
Not us.
I'll go look.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Strange.
somebody's missing.
Or if I said, tell me about your typical day, you'd say, my typical day is, or I've never had a typical day, or...
Okay. Oh.
It's going to be very fun and easy, and I'll go around a few times.
Just one second.
I always feel so evil when I turn people away, but
I know, but that's ridiculous.
I didn't fling a wine bottle out the window at them.
I think perhaps when we start, we should close the window, eh?
Yeah, I think so.
Because it's flapping.
So you're going to interview Taylor and me?
What?
Or you're speaking of Taylor and me?
Yeah, I'm going to interview him this afternoon,
Oh, okay.
if I live. Your great-grandfather.
Yes.
Yeah,
Say it's broken?
Yeah.
Sound is good? Sound is good. Okay, I'm rolling. You can start.
When did you arrive in New York?
I got here in 1979.
Let's try again with including the question. I arrived in New York.
Sorry. Well, I first arrived in New York in 1979. I got here from Paris. That's where I literally got here from.
Why did you come to New York?
Well, why did I come to New York? I had been, for the year previous to arriving here, I'd been studying at the Courtauld Institute in London, which is this really amazing school for art history. And before that, I'd been living in Paris for 2 years. And I got to Paris when I had just turned 18. I was an extremely innocent creature. I kind of grew up in Paris and developed vices, drinking and smoking. Not terribly many vices, I guess, in retrospect. But I had, shall we say, I had been almost a child when I left Savannah to go to Paris. I mean, to all intents and purposes, I was what anyone growing up in New York would consider to be a child, And then in London, I just suddenly felt that I had never really known what America was like as a grown-up, I guess. And I just really wanted to find out what New York was like.
How did you get to New York?
I took a plane. Shall we say to get here, I took a plane.
Where did you come when you first came to New York?
Where did I go when I first arrived here? Well, I literally, I didn't have very much money on me when I got here, which is not such a bold step as it might seem, because I did have the power to kind of get money sent to me, but I really, when I exchanged all my money at JFK, I wound up with $60. And I took this bus that was waiting at the depot in the airport, and the bus took all these students to this place called the Empire Hotel, which is right across from Lincoln Center. And they had these special rates for innocent students arriving from Europe. And I could have shared a room with someone for $10 a night, but I chose to have a room by myself, which cost $20 a night. After the first 2 nights, I had no money left at all, and actually spent one night just roaming around in the streets, which was rather interesting, you know. I was wandering around Greenwich Village in the rain.
Who is Edgar Oliver? Describe him for us.
May I pause for 1 minute?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Is that a drawing of your mother's?
Yeah,
It's nice.
yeah, I love it. I found it recently in one of her portfolios.
Okay, I'm ready to go. Running.
Okay. Who is Edgar Oliver? Describe him for us.
Who is Edgar Oliver? Well, God, that's something that I guess I've been trying to figure that out for a long, long time. Most of my stage works that I write are autobiographical, and I'm in the process of trying to write another autobiographical work right now, you know, that I have to finish it within the next 2 weeks. And
Describe yourself.
well, shall we say that in my works, when I write about myself, I always go back to my childhood. And I suppose that in a way I still am very much a child, kind of. I think I'm something of a clown. I think that I amuse people. Shall we say, in a restaurant or walking down the street, I often catch people looking very amused when they look at me, and that pleases me somehow, thank God, because if it didn't, it would be rather dreadful.
What qualities do you have? What motivates you? What makes you tick? Or do you not want to give away your mystery?
Well, what makes me tick? I mean, I honestly don't know. Do you know what makes you tick? You do. Yeah, you do, don't you? I myself would guess that if I had to say what I was chasing, what phantoms I was chasing, I guess. It's just a sense of ecstasy that I'm pursuing somehow. And all of my walks and my wanderings and my writings are some sort of a quest for an ecstatic sense. I like to take walks.
Tell me about your typical day. What is it like?
A typical day of mine? Oh God. Well, I guess I have two main states of being. I have my sober state, which I guess I'm partially in right now. And then I have my drunken state, and I like very much going back and forth between them. I have in the past had other states, such as a completely drugged state. I'm very happy that I don't have to go through that anymore. Recently, I guess my typical day has revolved around, sleeping a great deal and suffering intense dreams. And then waking and making my Chinese tea and doing household chores and then attempting to get around to writing, which can be an exercise in the art of avoidance, which is of extreme intricacy.
What is in your refrigerator right now?
But what is in my refrigerator? Well, I have 3 big jugs of wine chilling for me and my guests. In fact, I feel very remiss. I guess I should have offered you some wine. But apart from that, I have some mustard and some Parmesan cheese, and not much else. Lots of wine.
Who else lived in your house before you?
Who has lived in this house before me? Wow. Well, that's a question I could spend a long time answering. Shall we say, I'm kind of in the honorary position of being the last surviving tenant of a long line of madmen, and I presume mad women as well, who have lived in this house. In fact, in terms of the play I'm writing, I could right now be speaking about myself. However, I'm talking about the rooming house that I live in, and it has a spiral staircase that I walk up and down and up and down. I had one neighbor who used to complain bitterly. From his room, he would scream, up and down, in and out, in and out. Because the creaking of the stairs was driving him mad, as I and my sister Helen would go back and forth between our chambers on the top floor and the bathroom. However, he somehow restrained himself from attacking us. Shall I answer it?
I think so.
No. Well, I'm fine, and you? I'm in the process of being interviewed by Penny Arcade, you know, and yeah, do you think you can call in like an hour? Ah, okay. All right, I'll do that. Okay, bye.
So, you lived here with your sister Helen as well.
Yes.
So
Yes,
go
I lived
from
here
that.
with Helen, my sister.
I need you to repeat that because I was tripping on your words.
Yes. Shall we say yes, I have always lived here with my sister until a few years ago. In fact, this is the only place I've ever really lived in New York. It was as I was saying, a house full of mad men and mad women, all of whom tried doggedly to kill one another, but the obsessive murder attempts were somehow striated from according to what floor you lived on. And Helen and I, living on the top floor, were the targets of murder attempts only by the two neighbors who lived on this floor with us, whereas the mad men and women who lived on the floor below, who were obsessively trying to kill one another, loved Helen and me. It was really very strange. It didn't exactly make sense, you know. Even though Donald would complain bitterly about making the stairs creak as we journeyed to the bathroom, which was right by his room, he somehow never really developed an insane hatred of us. In fact, he really liked us. But Frances, the old lady who lived in the little ovoid room at the foot of this first flight of stairs, which she really turned into a nest, literally. Donald would try to kill her all the time with bug spray. She would lock herself in the bathroom with an old enamel tub and several bars of soap and some pristine rags that she would obsessively wash all day long until all the soap was eaten away, like Lady Macbeth, trying to wash the murderous stains off her hands. And she would not let anybody else into the bathroom except Helen and me, whom she loved. But whenever she'd walk by with her pot of soapy water and rags, Donald would fling his door open and blast her with this industrial strength roach killer gun, and then slam the door shut before she could hurl her pot full of sudsy water onto him, while shrieking, "I'm going to give you a brain operation." And then sometimes, if she managed to get into the bathroom and lock herself in, Donald would let her wash her rags for a long time so that she became very consumed by what she was doing. And then he would sneak up to to the bathroom door and emit a blood-curdling shriek, and in an attempt to give Frances a heart attack, which would presumably have been easy since she was about, 90, she was like at least 85 years old, but she had a very, very strong heart. However, Donald oftentimes almost gave Helen and me heart attacks because, since we were the only people besides Francis who ever could manage to get into the bathroom, sometimes he would just, for obvious reasons, assume that we were Francis. And so Helen would be there, or I would be there, nonchalantly taking a shower. When suddenly this blood-curdling shriek would come through the bathroom door, and we would scream and fall onto the floor of the bathtub. And all he would say was, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I thought you were someone else." And then scurry back into his room.
Did Helen ever paint any of the other tenants?
Did Helen ever paint any of the other tenants? No, she didn't. They were far too paranoid, I think, to ever
Where did
agree
Helen's
to pose for her.
Where did Helen's subjects come from? But include that in the sentence.
Where did Helen get the people she painted? Well, Helen painted, people that we know in New York. So consequently, all these paintings have a tale attached to them of some strange character or other. A lot of them, artists and actors and bohemians. She's painted you, certainly.
Let's see. Where do you find sanctuary in New York?
Where do I find sanctuary in this town, New York City? Well, I have a few favorite places that I'm drawn to obsessively. One of them is what I would call the Pickle District, which is really just the depths of the Lower East Side, down around Hester Street and East Broadway, where they really do sell pickles by the barrel, and it's a place that I love to just go and roam around. And my other favorite place really is all of Brooklyn. I love Brooklyn for some reason. Especially Prospect Park, because it's like a haunted forest, and you can really go into the woods there and get terrified, and you're not quite sure what you're terrified of, whether it's something human or just the trees themselves.
What makes New York, New York for you?
What makes New York, New York for me? Wow. I guess just the limitless possibility of it, really, that it's a place of infinite possibility and infinite lunacy and vast sprawling places to wander and waterways and bridges and that it straddles so many islands and embraces the ocean as well. You know, it embraces all sorts of people and stretches of wasteland and I love its rottingness and its irreparableness. The fact that no matter how hard someone like Giuliani, for example, will try, and he actually is doing a pretty incredible job of patching it up, it will always decay more rapidly than anybody could ever repair it. It's irreparable.
What does quality of life mean to you? What is the quality of life that you aspire to living in the city?
What is the quality of life I aspire to here? That's an interesting question, because it's one that I think is easily attainable here in New York, because it's a lost sort of quality. It's just a wayward, lost, roaming, searching quality that you can have in this town, because you can always be lost here and always have something to find, and it's an irreparable town.
Has New York changed since you arrived?
Has New York changed since I've gotten here? I've been here 20 years, and it must have changed. Yes, it has changed, quite drastically, I suppose. Both in terms of just the ambitions of the people who live in this neighborhood, and what they wear and how they present themselves on the streets. When I first got here, I'd say that dressing, how you dressed, was an incredibly important part of being a bohemian, being from the East Village. People would deck themselves out wildly in the most outlandish sort of costumes, and it was a real statement how you looked. Nowadays, people are much more conservative and at the same time, I guess, care more about their appearance in terms of a conservative nature, but at the same time care a lot less. I mean, they don't really spend a lot of time being sartorial.
Where are your relatives?
Where are my relatives? Well, most of them are in the grave, or else well, Mother, we failed to bury. She's in a series of boxes scattered in different places. Part of her is in the dungeon of my castle desk, and Helen has part of her in a wooden box that we actually desperately tried to exhume a few months ago during an oncoming storm out in Greenport, where Helen lives now. Helen, my sister, being, Helen, my mainstay relative. In fact, truthfully, my only real, honest-to-God living relative. Although I do have some cousins that I love very much, actually. But it's just that I almost never see them. One of them actually lives here in Brooklyn Heights.
had. Let's see. Why do you still live in New York?
Why do I still live in New York? Well, you know, I guess I've been kind of asking myself that recently. Shall we say I love it here? I don't think I'd ever want to give up New York. But it might be interesting to try living someplace else for a while, you know.
Like?
Well, it would have to be another country. I don't know, like Morocco, you know, could be pretty fascinating, I think. Or some decaying, lunacy-ridden land, you know, that's coming apart at the seams.
What are you working on right now?
What am I working on right now? Well, currently I'm trying to write a play that's going to be premiering at La Mama in the first 2 weeks of May, so it's coming up very soon. And it's driving me, hopefully, a little mad. I think that it hasn't yet quite driven me mad enough to be able to goad me into giving it birth. You know, but I think I'm on the verge of getting there with it. I hope.
You always perform at La Mama. Let's talk about that a little bit, your history of shows at La Mama, Halloween and whatnot.
To speak of my history with La Mama and Halloween. Yes. Well, I guess for now, almost 13 years I've been doing shows at La Mama once a year, premiering a new stage work, and it's become something of a tradition, which is kind of delightful for me because I love working at La Mama. I love the club is where I usually work, and the cabaret stage there, and I love that stage. I, for about 10 years, would traditionally premiere a show there on Halloween, which was always really fun for me. But in a way, I'm kind of glad that this year I'm doing a show at a different time of year because I don't want to become inextricably associated with the macabre, although my works are generally rather macabre. They're not really macabre necessarily for the sake of being macabre. They just kind of have a dark atmosphere, you know. So it's kind of fun not to be doing Halloween this year. Besides, it was fun to be able to go trick-or-treating.
Can you talk a little bit about the themes of your writing and the process of it?
To speak of the themes of my writing, the process of it. Well, I would say that the greatest overriding theme of my writing...
Could you start again? I had...
Yes, okay. To speak of the themes of my writing and the process of it. I'd say that the single most overriding theme in everything that I write is desire and a sense of loss and looking for something, and desire as loss, and as a quest, and that's very much, you know, physical desire, but that can be metaphorical as well. Process. Well, I guess that mainly, even though what I do is I write generally works for the stage, but I got into writing for the stage by doing poetry readings, and all of my work is a form of poetry. It's all expressed as poetic writing, and because of that, I always try to write into the unknown. I try to never quite know what it is that I want to say until I've, at least halfway finished saying it, If it's not a process of discovery, then it's nothing, and so I always try to surprise myself somehow. I hope that I can still do that.
If you were elected mayor of New York, what is the first thing you would do?
If I were elected mayor of New York, what would be the first thing I would do? Wow. That's an interesting thought. Because you know that I almost ran for the mayor of New Hope, Pennsylvania about 13 years ago. I went out there to be in a summer production of Frankenstein, and I was such a popular character out there that I almost decided to run for mayor just as a joke. Well, I probably would be rather lackadaisical mayor. I mean, I'm so horribly lazy. I think I would pass some sort of ordinance for the preservation of decay, really. I think that's what I would do first of all. And then, yeah, I'd probably get drunk, indeed.
No, I thought you might pass some laws for public drunkenness.
Oh, well, of course, that's an excellent idea. Indeed, I would revoke any laws that made wandering around guzzling liquor on the streets. I'd revoke all that. Yes, indeed.
What advice do you have for a young person who's considering moving to New York or who has moved to New York?
What advice do I have for young people moving to this town? Well, I would just hope that anyone who came here with the ambition of being a bohemian has a lot of stamina, because it's getting, very difficult to be a bohemian here, I guess. I mean, maybe it's not. I mean, maybe that's all deceptive. The skyrocketing prices and the lack of places to live and the whole shift in the landscape perhaps is utterly deceptive. I recently have gotten to know suddenly quite a whole batch of like 19 and 20-year-olds who are so incredible. They're just delightful people, and they've been giving me their poetry to read, and they're just amazing writers, and I just feel incredibly honored, that they like me and want to visit me, and you know, and suddenly I'm thinking a lot about that, about these 20-year-olds here, and how difficult it is, you know, launching a career as an artist, as somebody who's planning to make and do things for which there's no need, no calling, that most people who think they're thoughtful don't want, in fact are repulsed by and terrified by it. I have no advice except, you know, if you want to be an artist, bravo to you, and I wish you all the courage and inspiration that can possibly come your way, and come visit me.
Do you feel a sense of community in New York?
Do I feel a sense of community here? Yes, I do. I think I feel an incredible sense of community in New York. It's one of the most amazing things about this neighborhood, especially. But it stretches all over New York. I think that there's a great community of artists here, and the longer I stay here, I guess I've just started to realize that you begin to fulfill a different function in that community, and it's becoming one of greater responsibility in a fun sort of way, you know. So that's kind of fun for me.
That was a very good answer, wasn't it? Where is your favorite view of New York?
Where is my favorite view of New York? You know, just right off the bat, without thinking, I'd really have to say, you know, just looking back and looking forth while crossing the Brooklyn Bridge, you know, I mean, you can see everything, and you can just see really what this town is and everything that it encompasses, and you can see all the aspects of it, the water, the ships, the skyscrapers, the other bridges, the engineering, and then just the expanse of Brooklyn itself, which, as I said, I adore, which is the getaway from it all, you know, the place where you can really go into the woods, you know. And it's when I feel like I'm really on my endless walk.
What do you miss from the neighborhood? Can you give us the names of people that you miss?
Oh, what do I miss from this neighborhood? Oh, God, well, yeah, I mean, there are tons of things I miss, you know. God, there's this place, this old bakery on East 9th Street that Helen and I always called it the Cherubble Brothers Bakery, after the Cherubble Brothers were these two characters in one of Dickens' novels. Which one I can't exactly remember right now, but they were these very kindly old gentlemen, and there were these two old men and their old sister, and they had this bakery on 9th Street, and, you know, they were just incredible. They were so Jewish, for one thing, you know. They were. I'd come in and they'd make me go and get them coffee, because they couldn't leave their bakery, and then they would give me deals on bread and cakes in exchange for the fact that I'd been their gopher, but they'd always wind up pawning off on me this ultra stale cakes and bread, which I didn't mind because I love stale cakes, you know. And they were kind of grooming me to take over their business, and then they vanished. Them I miss. Other things. Oh, God, just all the old, you know, crazy stores, you know, that used to be around here, selling just, you know, loony old stuff that you can't find anymore. And God, these mad women who had this shop down on East Broadway under the Manhattan Bridge, who, you'd go in and they had this labyrinth of just old clothes in this cellar, and then this one passageway only about 3 feet deep in clothes, and you have to walk over clothes, fearing being buried under an avalanche of clothes. You'd have to really have courage and a vast love of the look of something to dare pull it out from the pile, for fear of being buried alive. And these old women, they were from, I believe, Alsace-Lorraine, because they spoke this weird language that for some reason I could understand, since I speak French, but it wasn't like anything I couldn't understand why I understood it. I guess it was Alsatian or something. Just all the crazy shopkeepers and lunatics roaming around in the streets, all the Bowery bums that almost are no more, the madmen who used to roam around, like the man with the tree strapped to his head. He'd walk around being a wandering tree, and that crazy black man who used to make those sculptures up and down the Bowery, which were, I thought, masterpieces, he should be in the Museum of Modern Art.
Let's see. Do you consider yourself a New Yorker?
Do I consider myself a New Yorker? Yes, absolutely.
So do it again, but I would like to add, and who qualifies to call themselves a New Yorker?
Do I consider myself a New Yorker, and who qualifies to be called? Well, I absolutely consider myself to be a New Yorker. I myself wouldn't put any criterion for qualifying, other than that if you really feel in your heart that you've been here long enough to really God, I guess, be a madman somehow, if you feel you qualify, then you do. I don't know, I'm suddenly thinking about, how Baudelaire in the Fleurs du Mal really wrote, an amazing poetic portrait of Paris, and sometimes would bemoan how cities change faster than our hearts, and they do. Paris has always changed and is always changing, and the same with New York, really. There's much capacity for decay and madness left in this town, regardless of what is done to shore it up.
I think that's good.
I think we could.
Yeah. So I'm failing. But I think we covered everything, and I think I covered everything you wanted.
Yes. Excellent.
I'm thinking that I have to call Taylor and try to change it to tomorrow, because I feel so sick.
Yeah.
What do you think? He had wanted to do, what time is it now?
He wants to do it at 4.
2:30.
Oh, maybe I could go and lay down.
And we
We
can do
could
it
push
at
it to
5.
5.
You let me call. Oh, would you call him?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
I just feel
let me
like I
see
can't
if
talk
have
on the
it.
phone.
Maybe I forgot mine.
Go into the room, but I need some.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
listed. He's listed in the phone book.
Yeah, because I don't have my app list right now.
It's horrible to be sick. haven't been sick in so long, I forget what it says.
Penny, I know it's impossible to remember.